My friends, welcome to this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. Today, this is a test night episode, and what I have here is very interesting. This is a pop-up tent. This is one of those quick to deploy pop-up tents that everybody seems to be asking me about. In this episode, we will find out if this is a tent that can handle some rain. So this is the Extremis pop-up camping tent. A viewer sent this to me. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you big time. I really do. Everyone, let's go ahead and set up this tent and let's see how well it performs. As far as this company goes, I am not familiar with them, so I can't say anything good or bad about the company. So we have tent stakes, guy lines, a small fly, the tent, and some setup instructions. As far as the setup, that's super simple, it really is. You fold it out, you pull it up, it locks into place. From here, I will stake out the corners, put the fly on. I have never seen tent stakes this poor before. These are the thinnest stakes I've ever seen, ever. Check this out. If I decide to do further episodes other than just this test night, I will compare this to other stakes because this is nonsensical. You could just bend these. These are garbage. I will be honest with you folks, this tent looks like the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. If it said Stan Sport on it, I would believe it because it's right up their alley. The quality of this looks terrible. Again, to the viewer who sent this in, thank you so much, but this really does look awful. All in all, everyone, I'm not impressed. This is right up there with Stan Sports as far as like the worst tents ever. Look at these guy lines. Look how short they are. What are you supposed to do with these? They're nothing but just these little bits of cord, very flimsy, very weak. They're fraying at the ends because they haven't been cauterized. So to start off here, there is a hole here on the body itself. When you look on the inside, there are micro holes all over the place. On the sides of the tent, there are vents. These are not well secure. Water will pour into these. This tent is going to leak. There's so many holes inside of this. There's going to be massive, massive problems. That is ridiculous. And look how bad the stitching is here. There are loose threads all over the place. Wow. Look at the rain fly. How funny is that, everyone? Something else I just observed here, the floor is not waterproof. There's water coming through the floor already. Look at that. It's wet. Let's see how much this tent cost. It better not be much because this is just ridiculous. It looks to be like around 80 bucks is the price of this tent. We know this is going to leak, so let's just have fun with it. Let's see how much water will go inside of this tent. You know, if you're going to buy a playhouse, don't buy this. You could buy playhouse tents for 20 bucks. Don't spend $80 on this hunk of crap, even if you're going out into very fair, very calm conditions. Don't waste your money on this. The entire pop-up setup aspect, that's a gimmick. Every single thing about this tent is cheap. It's cheap. The quality is subpar. This is a 2-season tent at the best. I should say this, folks, when it comes to these pop-up tents, most of them are just like this. There's a handful of companies, namely from China, who make this. This is not unique. These pop-up style tents where you just simply pull it up and it kind of sets up itself, these have been around for a long time. This one is lighter than most. It's less substantial than most, I should say that. So in the end, the overall performance of this tent is going to match many of the others out there. Now everyone, it is time to check on the Extremis pop-up tent. Did it leak? Probably. To go over what happened yesterday with the weather, rain began to fall yesterday afternoon, fairly light. Last night it was moderate and it lasted a majority of the night. So this was a good rain event. I would say maybe 1.5 inches of rain has fallen. Did the tent leak? Let's take a look. I'm surprised it did not leak as bad as I thought. It did leak, don't get me wrong, but I expected far, far worse than this. You can see water actually coming down the walls now, dripping into the tent here. So, without a doubt, this is not waterproof. You can see we have a puddle of water over here. You can see water just pouring down the side here. We have more water over here. We have a few drops over here as well. To be honest, everyone, I expected much, much worse. Yes, this tent leaks. It is not waterproof, but this is not the worst tent that we've seen as far as leaking goes. That goes to the StanSport tents. StanSports, they make the worst tents. The overall quality of this feels even cheaper than StanSports, but this is, without a doubt, more waterproof than your average StanSport tent. Would I recommend this? Absolutely not. But it is far more waterproof than what I expected. Let's focus on what I just said there. It is far more waterproof than I expected, but it's not waterproof. This tent leaks, don't use it in the rain. Also, it's very, very expensive. $80 for this tent does not make any sense. You could buy a good quality tent for 80 bucks. Don't buy this hunk of garbage. I am impressed. Okay, let me put it this way. I'm not impressed. I'm shocked. That's how I should say it. I expected far worse. I expected this to be a swimming pool, but it's not. It's definitely wet inside. There's no point to do a ventilation condensation test because it's soaking wet. So this episode ends here. It ends now. The overall performance of this tent is what you can expect with your average pop-up tent. There are, again, a number of companies who make this. I think it's Reactive, I believe that's another brand. They push this tent very heavily on Facebook, on social media. This tent and the Reactive tent are very similar. There's not much of a difference there. The design is just a little bit different, but overall, it's the same functionality as far as the setup goes. The materials are almost the same. This has 1 door and 2 vents, whereas the Reactive tent has 2 doors and no vents. So if you were going to buy a tent for dry camping that's super easy to set up between those two, I would go with this one. At least you have those vents. Now you may be wondering why I review so many cheap tents. And that's because of you all. The majority of people who contact me asking about tents are asking about very budget-friendly tents just like this. I've had maybe a couple hundred emails and questions about Reactive pop-up tents and other brands. And that is why I do these videos. Now, of course, here on the channel, I review tents from all budget lines. Super inexpensive to ultra expensive. So make sure to check out my playlist. I have reviewed tents from all budget lines, good quality, bad quality, and also I just put up a video where I go over every single type of tent out on the market today. 2 season, 3 season, 3+ season, 4 season, and so on. So make sure to watch that episode. Think of it as the ultimate guide to tents. For this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review, that is it. Make sure to comment down below, what do you all think about this tent? Are you surprised that it held up so well after 1.5 inches of rain? I am. This tent, again, is not worth the money. I do not recommend it, but it is more waterproof than I expected. I can't wait to read your thoughts, everybody. Again, to the viewer who sent this in, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everybody else does as well. So be well, strength and honor. Talk to you soon.